Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you are enjoying the Christmas card series this year. If you have missed any of the previous videos, I encourage you to go back and check those out. But we are going to continue on today with our 12 days of Christmas, and we are going to do something a little bit different. We are going to do a gatefold card. So to start that off, I have a piece of cardstock here that is 8.5 by 5.5. And in order to make the gatefold, on the long side, we are going to score it 2 1/8 on both sides. So this is going to make it to where the center panel is 4 1/4 by 5.5, but we have essentially a gatefold that makes this a more interesting opening to your card. So here I'm showing you on my scoreboard that the 2 1/8 mark is the first tick mark past 2 inches. So then I'm going to go ahead and fold and burnish these score marks, and we're going to see that we have a fun gatefold card. This card is inspired heavily by Jennifer McGuire. She did something many moons ago where she had a gatefold card, and she essentially had a belly band on it, and all the decorations and all the embellishments from it came from the belly band. And I was really inspired by that, and so this is kind of what sparked today's card. One of the things I'm going to use is this stencil set from Pinkfresh Studio. This is obviously not meant for Christmas, but we're going to make it Christmassy. So this is the Pinkfresh Studio Floral Print Circle. It does not have a die, but I'm going to go through my stash and find a die that works. I wanted to have this to be more of a silver and navy blue. That screams Christmas to me without being traditional red and green. So you could use this more of like a winter type card instead of an actual traditional Christmas red and green. This stencil set has 5 stencils in it, and I picked out 5 Simon Says Stamp Positively Saturated inks, and I'm going to use my ink blending tools that I purchased off of Amazon to color these in. It does have registration marks, and I am going to go ahead and use those to just give me a better idea on how to stencil this and make my life easier. So what I'm doing is I am lining up my A2 size panel on, which is 4 1/4 by 5.5, using those registration marks. And then in order to make it easier for me when I go to put the next stencil on, so I can ensure that I'm getting it almost in the exact same spot every time, I am just using a corner on this makeshift sticky mat that I made. This is just a Cricut mat that I've cut down. And so I just know that if I place it into this approximate corner every time, I won't have to be on the struggle bus to get things to line up. That's just how I do it. There are sticky grid mats out there. Waffle Flower has them. Altenew has one. I want to say somebody else has them. Pinkfresh, maybe? I'm not sure. I know for sure Waffle Flower and Altenew have versions of this. So, but theirs is made out of photopolymer, so it's the same material that your stamps are made out of, your clear stamps. Those are on my Christmas list, y'all. They are. Anyway, so here I have just taken one of those Simon Says Stamp Positively Saturated inks, and I am just ink blending in. This is the leaves and some of the like stems and veins on the flowers. And I chose to do this one first just because it's the fullest, and for some reason doing the one that has like the most image, the most color, works better for my brain. So I'm just going to go through and move on. The inks I'm using today are Twilight, Cadette, Royal, Flannel, and EARL. And like I said, all of these are their Simon Says Stamp Positively Saturated line. They have their traditional lines. They have their Rainbow Splash line, which is new as of the filming of this video. So use whatever you've got. You don't have to use these colors, not unless you want to. So use whatever you've got. And I'm just going to go through and continue to stencil each of these in and just kind of fill in this circle image. That whatever ink I just used was really, really juicy. And so I did have some of the ink try to seep up, or it seeped under my stencil. And all I did was take my flour sock cloth and that's not a word. Flour flour sack cloth. There we go. And just kind of dab that up. And now we're moving on to the flowers. I'm going to go ahead and speed this up because I'm not doing anything fancy. I'm not doing extra shading. I'm not doing anything fancy. I'm just putting down a flat layer of color. One of the things that I discovered is that these, I wanted this to be darker. I wanted these to be more of a navy, and they weren't as dark as I liked. So what I did is I took one of the gray colors I was using, and I used that to kind of deepen it and shade it, so that I could get a deeper, darker, more like navy color instead. And here I'm doing it again. I just wanted it to be darker, and this makes it darker without making it look gray. So that's something that you can do. If I know neutrals are not always fun colors to have, but they do serve a really good purpose. Particularly if you don't have a whole lot of colors in your stash, having a set of like a neutral gray or a warm gray or a cool gray can be really beneficial if you want to get more colors based on what you have. So here I'm just taking a nesting circle die. I think this is a Hero Arts Infinity circle die set, but you can use whatever one you have in your stash, whether it's just a straight circle like this, or if it's got stitching detail or some other interesting kind of detailing on it. You can use whatever you've got. I'm just trying to figure out which size circle I like better. This would be good if I was going to put it on the card just by itself, but I think I decided to go with the slightly smaller one, just because, like I said, all the interest from this card is coming from the belly band. The inside of it is, or the actual like card base and the gatefold panels are plain. And so I'm just kind of fiddling here and trying to figure out which circle I like best. And we're going to go with this one. So I'm going to tape that in place and run that through my die cut machine and have this pretty little circle cut out. So I have my circle cut out, and what I've taken is just a piece of white cardstock, and I've cut it down to about 2.5 by 11 inches. I don't need quite all of this length, but I'd rather have more than not enough, so we're going to just roll with it. And I just picked the width of this belly band based on what looked proportional to the size circle I have. So if you were going to make like a 5x7 card, or you were using a different shape other than a circle, just cut your belly band to where it looks proportional to whatever size shape that you're using. Here I've just loosely wrapped around this strip of cardstock that I'm going to use as the belly band. I'm going to go back and like sharpen that, and here you see me whacking off some sections because I don't need all of that. That just adds extra bulk. So I do kind of cut that down a little bit, and then I'm going to take my bone folder and just kind of shore up these makeshift score marks that I put in place. And this is going to form the belly band. When you're doing this, you don't want it so tight that the recipient struggles to open it, or feels like they have to tear it to get it off. But you also don't want it so loose that it falls off. So kind of doing what I did is just kind of loosely freeform wrapping it around it is a good option for that. So do as I say, not as I do. So here, when I go to adhere my floral, this little circle, I should have done it where the seam is. So where I glued those two sections together, but I didn't. So you'll see how I fix that later. Here I'm just taking the residual blue ink from my blending brush and just going lightly around the edges. I thought that made this circle stand out a little better. And I just liked how that looked. So you can do that or not, totally up to you. I think it just kind of helped make it pop a little more. Here I have this silver metallic cardstock in my stash. I think this is from an American Crafts paper pad from probably over a decade ago, but use whatever you've got. And I just cut little like 1/8-inch strips off of it. And they don't even span like the entire length of the card here, of this belly band. And that's okay, because most of it is going to be hidden behind this anyway. So I end up like chopping it sort of in half so that you can make this kind of specialty cardstock go a little further. And all I'm going to do is adhere this on this belly band. just to give it a little more interest. I know Jennifer McGuire uses little cardstock strips often in her cards, and like I said, this was heavily inspired by the goat, and so I wanted to kind of mimic that here. So here you see me bringing out that T-square ruler, and I'm just going to put a thin bead around it and then use that T-square ruler to kind of make sure it's straight. Since this is so simple, you want to make sure that all of the elements on there are right. Because your eye is going to see all of those little details. If it was a busier card, you could get away with something being a little crooked, but because it is so simple and all of the embellishment, all of the interest, all of the color comes from this belly band, you want to make sure that you get these things on there correctly. So that's where the T-square ruler comes in very handy. So I'm going to put 2 little strips essentially on all 4 corners, and then we can move on. And again, I really should have been adhering this to the seam. So do as I say, not as I do, and adhere this, all of your embellishments and stuff, to the seam so you can hide it. So that's what it looks like with all of the little strips in place, and I like how that looks. And now we're going to go ahead and you see how we have this glorious seam here. If that bothers you, do what I did and just adhere a panel that is slightly smaller than your belly band over that, and then no one will ever know that you didn't necessarily put this together right the first time. And it adds a little extra durability. So if you're using a lighter weight cardstock for your belly band, this adds a little extra durability. So it works out in the end. I just wish I would have been thinking more ahead and glued all of my images to the seam. But this is an easy way to fix it. So that's how I fixed that. And now essentially this card is done. What I am going to do is put a sentiment on it. That's kind of a big deal. I am not sure where this sentiment set comes from, but it does have coordinating dies, which is the cat's pajamas, y'all. So I'm going to heat emboss this in silver, and I'm going to be using my anti-static powder tool and my Versamark ink just to go over this navy cardstock. This is from Diecutslovepaper from Etsy. I love her paper. Her colors are very reminiscent, if not almost identical, to Simon Says stamp cardstock, but a little bit cheaper. The only thing is that her shipping is pretty pricey, but I love her products. I love her paper. So I just roll with it. So I'm going to use that same paper that the card base was made out of. I just ripped off a chunk of it. And I'm stamping that twice with my Versamark ink after I used my anti-static powder tool. And then I'm going to sprinkle on some silver embossing powder from Ranger. This is a super fine detail one, so it's going to work really well on this sentiment that isn't like super fine lines, but it's not like super chunky either. So it's going to work pretty well. One thing that I have discovered lately is heating my cardstock from the back when I do my embossing. Somebody, and I can't remember who anymore, said that they have been heating their cardstock up from the back when they've been doing embossing, and they get better results. And so one day I just tried it, and it was true. And so I was like, well, maybe it's a fluke. So I tried it again on a different card. And sure enough, I have been getting smoother results when I heat set from the back. So here it is all heat embossed. I just hit it with my heat gun. Oh. And there it is. And it does look so much smoother. I'm not sure why that is, but I'm not going to fight it. So I just used my hand to wipe off some of that anti-static powder tool that was kind of lingering behind. And then I'm going to take the coordinating die and die cut this out. And I'm going to die cut it out. I think I ended up die cutting it. Yeah. So a total of 4 layers, including the heat emboss layer, just because I wanted this to be substantial. It is going to go like on the very middle of this belly band in that circle. And so I wanted it to have some weight to it so that it didn't look dorky or small. So I'm just going to use my liquid glue. That gives me just a little bit of wiggle room to make sure that I get these die cuts lined up correctly. And then we will glue this to the very center of our circle. As a final bit of embellishment, I did go through my stash and just kind of sparingly placed sporadically throughout. I did glue down some embellishments. These are from Amazon. I don't remember. I think they're from Amazon. But anything you have in your stash would work. And that belly band comes off, and then you have a card base inside. Because this is dark cardstock, I did glue a panel inside. It's probably 4 by 5 1/4, just so that it would give you a little margin and people wouldn't have to use like a special pin. If you were going to gift it to somebody, they wouldn't have to use a special pin to put it on there. So that is it for the day. I appreciate you spending time with me, and we will see you on the next video. Bye.